Welcome to the Nightly Rant
with
your hosts, Mike
and Torya.
This is the show where we examine society from a sarcastic point of view.
If you like insane conversations, this is definitely the show for you.
Let's get into today's topic. YPN people, I don't know about you, but I love helping out a friend. That's why I want to shout out my friend Brian Little and his podcast, Your Favorite Blockhead. This is the only show that manages to weave together peanuts and MMA into one heck of an amazing podcast. You can find Your Favorite Blockhead wherever your favorite podcasts reside and at yourfavoriteblockhead.com. Do me a huge favor and listen to Brian's show. You'll be entertained and you'll help out a friend. Now, as I said, let's get into today's topic. That had to be one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time.
Well, you think it was funny. I think it's not a great behavior.
What about a dog that is supposed to protect its owner, protecting its owner from someone with a water pistol and telling you to put your hands up was bad behavior by a dog? It's
a pint-sized human being. It was like a 6-year-old.
Do you think a 6-year-old couldn't pull a trigger on a gun?
I roll.
He's a dog.
Did you think the laughing, giggling 6-year-old was going to pull any kind of trigger?
He's a dog. He doesn't know any better except to protect us. And it was really hilarious. But the best part about it was the dog who used to be the least obedient creature on the face of the planet returned the second we called his name.
How about you tell the people what actually happened?
So we were walking the dogs. We're also carrying some trash down to the trash dumpster. A little boy who had to be like 5 or 6 years old points a gun at us and says, "Put your hands up."
A water pistol.
It was a gun. "Put your hands up." The dog proceeds to bark because he perceives the threat. The kid runs. The dog chases the kid. I yell the dog's name and the dog turns around and comes back. That's what happened.
There you go.
And it's hilarious. The only thing funnier than that is trash bag basketball. That was funny.
Also, in the same eventful dog walking trip we had, that dude with the little tiny kid has no idea that I'm the one who said something sassy to him.
No.
Or he wouldn't have been so friendly.
Yeah, no. Well, those two are kind of clueless.
Yeah.
They live in their own little world, which is fine. So here's the thing. It's going through the comments on the news website, and some dude posts this sassy comment in there, basically saying, go get a life. Everything you do sucks. But yet he was quite familiar with every single thing we do.
Yeah, for somebody who sucks, you have a lot of stalkers.
Why would somebody take the time to look at everything we do if we suck so bad?
I don't know. You must be exciting or something.
It doesn't make sense to me. That kind of behavior is somebody who wants to make themselves feel better by hiding behind a keyboard. Oh, and by the way, they used a fake name to make their comment and a made-up email address that they had just opened, and they want to talk shit?
Do you want to know what? It was probably Mr. Minor League.
Maybe.
If you know who I mean.
Yeah, maybe. Could be. I didn't think about that.
It had an air of douchebag on it.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Interesting. Possibly. I got a chuckle out of it, but then I immediately thought about, well, how ridiculous are you? Like, you have to take the time to say shit to somebody. Like, here's the thing. As I said, I think he was being a troll. I don't think he believed anything that he said. But let's just say for a minute that what he was saying is actually how he felt. Do you really need to go on and leave a comment like that to somebody? Really?
Well, you don't give a shit what anybody else thinks.
No, I mean, if you're gonna not like my podcast, then don't listen to my podcast. It's pretty straightforward and simple.
There's this thing called moving on with your life and only paying attention to things you enjoy or benefit you. And it's called being an adult. So if you don't like our podcast and you're listening right now and you're the dickhead who left that comment, kindly go die in a hole.
Why do people waste their time letting other people take up space in their head rent-free? Why do they do that?
That was the most PG way I've ever told somebody to go die in a hole, by the way.
But why do they do that? Answer the question instead of avoiding the question.
I have no idea. I'm not the type. So I don't know why people do that.
To me. Like, I've had a lot of people do a lot of traumatic things to me throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
And from time to time, it will come up because of something else that happens. But it doesn't live there all the time.
Of course.
Swirling around in my brain. And I feel like, you think I suck. So why were you at my news site?
Well, I have like 6 more simple examples than past, because past is always going to come back and be in your life in some way.
Let's hear them.
A band I don't like, a blog site that I don't particularly enjoy reading, a podcast that I don't give a rat's ass about. Why do I spend time reading and or listening to any of those things? A
television show that got 3 strikes.
Exactly. You don't waste your time or energy on it because it's insignificant to you. Clearly, your existence and what you do in the news and the podcast and all of that is significant to them in some way.
It would have to be because here's the thing. He says that there's never any news on the news site. Oh, and by the way, I whine and complain about people. Whine, W-I-N-E. I didn't know that I gave people wine, but I guess so.
What a nice dude.
And he took the time to reply and leave a comment. And that isn't easy on our news site because I had to, when I set up the news site, I did some research. And one of the things they say is you have to put some disclaimers about the type of comments that are allowed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's all this stuff that they have to scroll through. Then they have to check the box that appears. Then they have to type their comment. Then they have to hit submit.
And they have to sign. They have to give an email address and everything too, right? Yeah.
And it's like lunacy to go and waste your time on something of that nature. It literally makes no sense to my way of thinking.
It was put there entirely because somebody wanted to make you feel bad.
And all it did was make me laugh.
Right.
And now we're bagging on the person because of how stupid they were.
I know.
And you know what? I'm sorry, people. You guys who listen to us, you know you're not part of the group that we're about to talk about. But it really is true. There are a lot of people in this world who are just plain stupid. They're just plain stupid. Stupid people. And I'm going to tell you, like last night, we were at a city council meeting.
Oh my God. I can't even.
And it's very clear. It says right on the form, if you're speaking about something related to an agenda item, your time will come during that agenda item.
Does it give you a space on the form to write which agenda item you want to talk about?
Yeah.
So if it's agenda item number 16, then you just put 16?
Exactly. And then it tells you that if you're just making a general comment or addressing something that's not on the agenda, that you go through oral communications. Now, they also announced, hey, if you're here, they were talking last night about short-term rentals, Airbnb. They announced, if you're here for agenda item 16 and you put in a card for oral communications, please tell me and I will move you to number 16. So the first lady to stand up and talk, what does she say?
I'd like to talk about the short-term rentals, and I'm going to talk about it now because I don't have time to stay to the end of this meeting. Why the fuck do I care if you don't have time to stay to the end of this meeting? How about you respect how the procedure works especially when you don't even live in the city of Buena Park?
They didn't even live in the city.
Yeah. If you're going to guest speak at some other city council meeting, perhaps you should follow the freaking instructions, lady.
And there was multiple people that did that.
Too, right?
And then here's the thing.
That we heard.
And here's the thing. Then the beloved city attorney opens his mouth and says, we're supposed to have this during the agenda item time because we want to capture all that in the same place. Well, I think that's a BS reason. The reason is to keep things focused and on topic. That's the reason.
Well, it makes sense. Put all things on a topic at once. It'd be like when we went to those Los Alamitos City Council meeting for the Build That Wall.
Sanctuary.
That. And they had their whole meeting first. Then they took a recess because they knew the rest was going to take a long ass time. And then all of the stuff about sanctuary cities was all at once. They did not interject it in with the regular comments at the beginning of their meeting. It wasn't in the middle of their meeting. It was by itself.
But the city attorney makes the comment, and then the very next person gets up and talks about the agenda item number 16, and they don't stop them. Why can't they just say, hold on, your topic comes later, go sit down. Next person.
I agree. I think that if you don't, they should put the check boxes on there, like you said, like they have. And if you don't check one or the other, well, if you check general comments and then you want to talk about one of the agenda items, that they should do exactly what you just said and tell them to sit back down. And if they put an agenda item and they want to talk about general comments, they missed their opportunity, then they shouldn't be able to talk. And I think that if they don't check either of the boxes because they're too freaking stupid to finish reading the form, that she should just put their piece of paper in the trash.
Well, here's the thing. Somehow they think they're doing people a favor by allowing them to violate the rules. But you know how I feel about that stuff. Why have the rule if you're just going to let people stomp all over it? Why have that rule?
You know what they should have would be really, really cool? If they had an iPad on a stand and you like filled out a Google form to speak.
They can't.
Really?
They have to physically have a copy of who spoke.
Interesting. They couldn't just like print it down?
Nope. It can be altered.
So they'd have to have
someone's handwriting.
So they could have a system. They could have it computerized. Like, hear me all the way out. And then it like prints out a slip and you sign the slip and then you put that in there and then you talk.
Sure, because they're going to spend money on that kind of a system.
Well, it would prevent idiots like that.
Printing it out. But it really wouldn't. Because they're not. The problem isn't that people aren't telling them what they're speaking on. The problem is that they're letting them speak during the open speaking time. You're kind of sounding right there, no offense, but you're kind of sounding like they're like when Abe was on talking about the Amazon tax and he was in support of the Amazon tax. And then his reason for being in support of the Amazon tax was that, well, they're not following the law. So we need to make a new law to make them follow that law. Like they're going to follow the new law? What's going to stop them from doing the exact same thing, filling out the form in the exact same way, and then they print the form out? Now what?
Required fields. That's what will stop them.
So they just check oral communication. The problem is it doesn't ask what you want to talk about.
Okay.
It should require a topic, just a really brief, 10 words. And as soon as they see, I want to talk about short-term rentals, she could just literally pick it up, look at it and go, oh, that's later. Oh, that's later. And then call people that don't have an agenda item on there. It's just anything else. It's like we've talked about. Parents that go into the grocery store with the kids and the kids are touching things. Don't touch that. It doesn't belong to you. If you touch that again, we're going to go home. And then the kid touches it again and again and again. And all they do is repeat the same thing. It doesn't accomplish anything. It's kind of why I thought what the dog did is funny. He came back as soon as we called him. He was truly not trying to hurt anyone. He was trying to protect us. And he was chasing away what he saw as a threat. And as soon as we called him back, he came back because we have control over our dog. It's why he's allowed to walk inside the building off of a leash because we have control over the dog. Most of the time, he goes through his stubborn stages. Then we leash him. It takes one day. Then he stops. They would be strict like you talked about and just be like, no, you didn't put either. You're in the trash. You don't get to talk. Oh, you checked oral communication, but you're about an agenda item. You're going in the agenda item, and I'm not calling you until the agenda item. Well, then guess what? Maybe then people would start showing up a little later into the meeting. I mean, come on. If we were going to go speak on a specific agenda item at City Council, and it was number 16 out of 20, would we have shown up at 5 o'clock when the meeting started?
We might have shown up at 5:30 because sometimes they change the order around, but we wouldn't have shown up for the initial oral communications.
There'd be no point.
Right.
We're not going to be talking during that.
You know what was crazy anyway? Because they did that whole stupid cake reception thing. Well, okay, the reason for the reception wasn't stupid. The fact that they had cake during the city council meeting was the part that was stupid. Anyway, we were there until almost 7 o'clock. Like it took 2 hours just to get through the oral communications. That's alarming.
We didn't even stay till the last person.
Nope. Well, we stood outside and chatted until after the last person, but yeah.
But it's frustrating to me when places have rules that they don't enforce. Then don't have the rules.
I agree.
Because honestly, recently we had an episode where we talked about annoying people and you said, quote, I have a scenario and a question. And then you said 2 people are talking and they're talking the way they normally talk and an occasional F-bomb might have been dropped. And I got glared at by a woman with a 7-year-old child. Whose responsibility is it to make sure that child doesn't hear that language? And I said that I could see it both ways. And in this situation, I don't see it both ways. I think that the people speaking out of turn are only doing what they know how to do. Let's face it, we figured this out. Most people in this world have never attended a meeting of their local government. So once they finally get a reason to, they don't have any understanding of what's supposed to happen.
And they couldn't listen the 73 times they explained what was supposed to happen.
I think it goes over most people. Look at the lady sitting in front of us. When people were talking, she's laughing because she doesn't grasp the gravity of the situation. It's completely lost upon her. Her only thing that was important to her was to talk about how wonderful that person was for coming out and talking to them about their traffic situation. That's all she could think of. And those things are set up by the city manager, by the way.
Oh, I know. I heard.
He invites them to come and talk.
I heard, yeah. Yeah, I heard.
I mean, why? Who cares? I don't care. You wasted 5 minutes of our time making me listen to that.
Right.
And recapping in detail. I showed up at the place and I waited like a minute and then the person pulled up that was supposed to meet me. And then 10 minutes later, the council member came and then they knew exactly what to do. Of course they did. I've had that scenario happen when I lived over there with the kid's mom. We had a problem where they in the whole entire neighborhood, they had street sweeping day and you couldn't park in the whole entire neighborhood. Well, where are you supposed to park your car while it's street sweeping? So I called the public works department and said, you need to come out and look at this. The dude came out and in 2 seconds, he was like, I know the solution. Would you be okay if I made it that you can't park here from 8 to 9 and everywhere else around here you can't park after 9? And then that way you'll get street sweeping first and you can park here after the street sweeping. You can park a block away until the street sweeping. I was like, of course I'd be okay with that. In a week, the signs were changed.
Yeah.
It took a week.
Seems reasonable.
And it's just,
they don't know there's a problem unless you alert them to the problem.
Right.
But then they're very competent at their job and they can come out and fix it.
I mean, I don't know why people are so shocked by that. These people, especially, that's the interesting thing when you
They're civil engineers.
But when you go to city council meetings, the interesting thing that I've noticed, a lot of people work for a city for a very, 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 very long time.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they know about their city? Of course they're going to know about their city because they've worked there for a literal lifetime.
Right, but they can't know everything. Like they can't know that having 2 crosswalks in the same area is inconvenient for people for any given reason.
You can see how it happened too. She explained that there used to be a school in that neighborhood and suddenly the school's gone. I just think I applaud people for speaking up and getting stuff done. I do. I applaud them for that. But there was no reason to come to the meeting and recap every single sentence of what was said and done.
It was written for her by someone else. Let's be real.
It's just plain bizarre.
Yep.
But I think it's all sort of related. You know, you got kids running around pointing guns at people because they're not taught not to do that. And then you got people going to websites and making nasty comments because somehow they think that matters to people. I don't know about you, but when I see somebody online doing a video and they look like a complete buffoon doing it, one of the first things I think of is, hey, good for them for doing it. But the fact that they put the video, you don't think they looked at the video and went, I look like a complete buffoon? Of course they did. But they put it out anyway. You know why? Because they don't care what people think about whether people think they look like a buffoon or not. Why would you think that making a negative comment is going to bother them? But then here's the thing. Do you remember when we had Adapia on here?
Yeah.
And her video got chopped down to like a small portion. And so it was taken completely out of context. And she was getting death threats.
Yeah.
What the hell is wrong with people?
I'm going to lump it in and say that it's all just as stupid as a city council trying to control what people can do with their houses.
Yeah, that's a topic. You know, that's a topic for another day. And I think it's a topic.
It's a whole topic.
It is a topic we should talk about because
it's coming.
People's rights are being infringed upon. People's rights are being infringed upon big time.
I agree.
And then you got the city attorney standing up there and threatening people with legal action because they're calling somebody out on the staff and you're not supposed to do that. Who says you're not supposed to do that? Last I checked, this is the perfect example. How many times you hear people say, I'm allowed to say whatever I want, whenever I want. I have freedom of speech. That isn't what freedom of speech is about. Freedom of speech is the government can't tell you you're not allowed to talk about something.
Right.
So how can
that was quite literally the government telling him he wasn't allowed
to talk about something. That's a violation of his First Amendment rights. It's just ridiculous. It's gotten to the point where nobody in this society gives a crap about anybody else. They don't care what other people do. They don't care what other people think. They don't care what they say. They just say whatever they want because they're little keyboard warriors hiding behind the keyboard. And you know what's funny about that? Go get a life. I haven't been home. This is the first night all week that I've been at home. First night.
Yep.
But I need to go get a life. Maybe the person sitting there typing out 3-paragraph bullshit comment should get a life. And you know what? I would have a lot more respect for that person if they used their actual name. It's like these jackals. It's like these jackals with the recall and they're hiding behind fake Facebook accounts. What kind of a pussy do you have to be to hide behind a fake account for that kind of thing?
Yeah, I agree.
Like seriously.
I tell you what, multiple people over the course of my living here have told me that I'm rude, which always makes me laugh because, yeah, I know. I'm fully aware. Anyway, and those same multiple people have said that I wouldn't say what I said to them online to their face.
Which is wrong.
They've clearly never met me. I'm worse in person.
Well,
when I'm annoyed with somebody, I'm worse in person.
Let's be realistic. You're the same in person if they push the same buttons. Yeah. If they don't push the buttons, you're not that way.
Well, except for I'm worse in person because they'll push all the same buttons and then I'll have to look at their face. You know how I feel about faces.
But the point is, people make all these assumptions. Like, I'm sorry, but how many times have I said on this podcast that my motto is, what other people think about me is none of my business. I don't care what people think. I try to act the way I think is appropriate, period. Right. And you can call me a bully. You can call me anything you want, but you can't prove that that's the truth. And especially the bully thing. The bully thing makes me chuckle because are you saying you're intimidated by me? Like, why? Why are you intimidated by me?
I know.
Because I disagree with you? Makes no sense. Makes zero sense. So, hey, I wanted to mention something. Our good friend of the show, your favorite blockhead, he did a really cool special episode today where he went live on Facebook while he was recording his show. And he was able to do it because people donated money to this like coffee. It's like ko.fy or something like that. This coffee site where it's almost like GoFundMe. Only they start out just asking for $3 to buy them a cup of coffee. And he gathered together money from that, his affiliate sales, and his Patreon. And he gathered enough money to have time at this studio.
Okay.
And I think it's called Dallas On Air. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check that. But he went in there and they had like this really nice like scenery of, Dallas behind him. And he's sitting there in front of a computer with a microphone. And one thing I noticed, no headphones.
Of course.
And he's just chatting away. And he looked like he was in his element. I was really proud of him. I was really super proud of him.
Blockhead, get yourself dang headphones, bro.
I was super proud of him, though. He looked so comfortable talking. And then he did this like top 10 thing that I'm probably going to steal from him from time to time, where he does like, the 10 best MMA fighters and the 10 best. He ranked like the Peanuts characters in order, top 10, and gave his reasoning. He explained it all. It was really well done. It was a good episode. And I mean, I sat here. I usually listen to his episodes when I'm not working.
Okay.
But I sat here, put my phone next to me. He had it on YouTube. So I listened to it there. And that's how I got all the visual and everything. And trust me, you guys are going to want to check this out on YouTube. But he sat there and he talked, and I listened to the whole thing while I was working because I was working on some PowerPoints, so I didn't need headphones or anything like that. So it was really nice, and I'm really proud of him. He looked so comfortable. He's come a long way. His approach is really good. He even had like a call-in segment because, of course, he was in the studio. I don't think anybody called in, but he had a call-in. He could do it. And he mentioned that, like, if you use vulgar words, I'm cutting you off. If you attack somebody, I'm cutting you off. He said, I'm not saying I'm off limits, but be an adult about it.
Is the Blockheads podcast cuss free?
Yes.
Interesting. That's why I've never been invited.
You hear that, Brian? She's begging for an invite on your show.
No, I'm super not,
she
but I
wants
am
to come
going
on
to
your show and talk about the little red-haired girl.
I am going to put our feud into full effect. As soon
that's
as I have
right.
5 minutes.
You guys have a feud.
I have to wage war.
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and do that right now?
Right this minute?
Yeah.
Okay, I will. It's coming, Brian. The war. It's coming.
So why aren't you doing it right now like you said you were going to?
I am doing it right now.
So the war is a silent war?
It's an Instagram war, dingus. You can't see pictures on the podcast.
Instagram war? I've never heard of an Instagram war. How does that work? Explain how an Instagram war works. I'm interested. I am actually interested in this.
More characters than a Twitter feud. I can say all of what I want to say.
What you're saying. You're not limited to like 240 characters. I was like, what? Well, because when you said characters, I didn't think letters. I thought people, like characters. I'm like, huh?
No.
Funny how your brain goes places that it shouldn't go. Well, that's interesting. So what are you going to do? Start posting like, memes about the blockhead?
Maybe.
You realize by him calling himself your favorite blockhead, he kind of makes it easy for you to attack him in that respect. He's calling himself a blockhead.
I know.
Oh, that's the other thing I forgot to. He was in his bright yellow shirt, with his little black
YFB shirt,
with his little squigglies at the bottom, his little YFB logo. He looked awesome. I was so proud of him. I told him on Facebook that he looked great. Like he just came off so well. I was so proud of him. And you know what? I'm gonna tell you something. It makes me respect people who, when they do their podcast, there's a whole host of people who go through a streaming service, or they go like straight to Twitch, or they do like live on Periscope, and they do video of their podcast while they're recording the podcast. And I'm quite impressed because the logistics of doing that is just something I don't want to deal with. Having to set up cameras. I mean, it's bad enough to make sure the damn microphones work every night.
Yeah.
Let alone that. So I have a lot of respect for people who do that. That takes a lot of time and effort and risk taking, because things could fall apart quickly, like really quickly. You could just completely be belly up and your show is screwed. Because then what are you going to do? Ignore it? No, nobody's that way. We're all human. And so when something's screwed up, what do you want to do? You want to fix it. But you're in the middle of your podcast. So how can you do that? You got to be professional. So what I'm getting at is he had someone helping him. He had an engineer there. That's the only way I could ever see us doing something like that. We would have to have an engineer because I can't futz with that while I'm trying to give a good performance on a podcast. No thanks. It's just bogus. So I'm going to nominate Yogi for Dog of the Year for protecting us tonight.
I'm not voting for him.
You don't have to. Lots of other people will. So people, I want you to send an email to info@yogispodcastnetwork.com and tell me if you would vote for Yogi for Dog of the Year for protecting us. He's the CEO of the podcast network. He wants to hear your feedback.
Don't do it.
And he will listen to whatever you say. If you say he shouldn't have chased the little 6-year-old child, he will never do it again. He promises. We had this conversation before we went on the air.
Okay, whatever then.
I think that I'm happy that we're finally at home for an evening. Even the other night when we had the guest, we really didn't get to stick around very long. I mean, we've been so busy. It's not even funny.
Well, since we've been so busy, I would love to get some extra sleep.
You're going to get extra sleep? I don't believe that.
Good night, everyone.
Hasta luego. Thank you for listening to the Nightly Rant.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Google Play.
If you didn't enjoy the show, please just ignore that previous request for a rating.
This has been a Yogi's Podcast Network production.